I hope that's fine. You could probably hear the announcement. And without further ado, I think we can go right ahead and start with introducing the speakers, if that's okay with you. And so the first speaker that we have, if my slides work, there you go, is Edwin. Edwin, hi there. Could you introduce yourself quickly for the audience?
All right. Thanks, Bastian, for for starting this webinar. It's absolutely delightful to be back amongst my fellow TIU peers, my friends, and people who are here who are still in TIU. Nice to meet you. My name is Edwin. As you can see in the slides, I graduated from TIU in 2020 from the IR department. I am currently working as a anti-money laundering reporting specialist in Wise Asia Pacific Limited. That's based in Singapore. It's a payment service provider, serving people like us who's like abroad probably, not in our own home country, wanting to send money, wanting to receive money from home or sending money to home. I also have done my master's straight away after TIU. I did that. I did mine in Asian Studies in Rajaratnam School of International Studies, that is tied to Nanyang Technological University here in Singapore. Currently based in Singapore. Used to live in Japan for 4 years to finish my undergraduate degree, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. Wonderful. Then we can move on to our next speaker, who is Mavi. Mavi, hi. Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Bastian, for inviting me for this webinar. So I graduated from TIU in 2019. And it took me 2 years to realize that I want to do my master's degree. So yeah, I did gain some experience after graduation. And then thought that Singapore is one of the best places, I guess, to gain some experience from. So last year in September, I came to Singapore to proceed my further studies at LSBF Singapore. As for now, I'm doing an internship at a place called Chuck Farm. It's an organic shop that is promoting green consumption. So yeah, nice to meet you guys. I hope this webinar is going to be something useful for you. We hope we can share our experience and help you to realize what is better for you, either job or proceed with further studies. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mavi. And just to clarify, LSBF is London School of Business and Finance, if people don't know that. They have a campus in Singapore too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then we move on to our next speaker. I feel like always a bit with my technology. There you go. We have Yosan. Yosan, hi. Welcome to the webinar, and thank you for being a speaker as well.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Bastian. Thank you for having me here as well. Hi, everyone. In case if you guys don't know me, my name is Yosan Willy Fanton Sufianto, but you can call me by Yosan. I graduated TIU on 2020 with an undergraduate degree in business economics. After graduating from TIU, I first started off working at Japan, specifically at Sanko Yasal Teku, as an international trade advisor, where my main job mainly involves in handling export and imported goods, and also it's just handling their documentations, such as their bills of lading, their packaging list, their invoice, and also updating my clients about their shipment status. However, currently I will be enrolling at National Taiwan Normal University at the Mandarin Training Center as a language student. And yeah, thank you for being here. For those who have joined here, and I hope that at the end of the seminar, you guys can get some valuable information between job and further studies.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks all to introducing yourselves. As mentioned, we would have had another speaker, Nemaya, unfortunately can't join us. But nonetheless, I think the speakers that you have in front of you here will give you lots of great insights on why they chose a master's degree or a job or vice versa. But before we're going to do that, I just wanted to give a quick general kind of idea of why people do a job and why do people do a master's. And that's generally speaking. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can do either or. You can see that here as well in our panel. We have workers, we have people who have done a master's, who have done a job already, and so it's more, I guess, about the question of what to do first. For you, most of you, but nonetheless, I think generally speaking, what you can see throughout the webinar is that there's no right or wrong answer in this case. And so the simple thing with why to do a job is kind of clear. It's about being financially well, or financial well-being, so to speak. You earn money compared to being a student. That's quite straightforward. And so, of course, you will have the chance to also being independent. You can stand on your own 2 feet. You don't need to rely on any scholarships or whatsoever. You get salary every month. And so these two things are usually intertwined, and they give you the big advantage, and they usually help you depending on your financial situation of what to decide afterwards. That's kind of really straightforward. Another thing is finding your true passion, and this can be also through a master's degree, but usually what jobs do is they squeeze you a little bit harder in the case that you need to do quite a lot of work, and you basically have for the first time an insight of what work life actually is. And maybe you realize, maybe you've studied IR, maybe you've studied business economics, and you went into the field of these two, and you realize, actually, I don't want to end up in this field. And so maybe your passion lies somewhere else, maybe your interest lies somewhere else, and you can basically then do in your master's degree something completely different that maybe relates to your previous previous bachelor's, maybe it doesn't, who knows. But usually it's a process that you can find throughout the master's degree as well. It's finding your true passion is something probably all of us are doing in our 20s, so to speak. And so if that's really just for the job or for the master, that's a big question mark, but nonetheless. Of course, gaining practical experience. You've heard the jokes probably that entry-level jobs always require you to have 2 years of work experience. And how are you supposed to have that if you have never worked before, right? But that's usually the simple thing of gaining some more work experiences by getting a job, putting that on your CV, and then showing that to let it be in the future your next degree or your next employer. Who knows? But that's also kind of straightforward. A master's degree doesn't give you that, except through internships, of course. Changing industries is something that maybe is applicable to some of you. You can see, for example, I take Edwin as an example. He studied IR, but he's now, he's doing something kind of like AR, but money laundering is it's a bit different for sure. And a job can definitely sometimes allow you to change industries. Maybe you realize that during a bachelor's degree, you're just there because you get a scholarship, you're studying IR, DBI, whatever, and you actually don't like it, you just want to get a bachelor's degree. Well, a job can always allow you to nonetheless get into the industry that you want, and that's why a job can also be helpful. In the end, later on, I can tell you from my own experience, I'm going to move into sales with my next job, and so that's far away from IR, I would say, except the politics in the office that you will have at every job. Moving on to a master's degree, doing a master's is, of course, about developing your interest in the field. Usually it's a more specialized master's degree because it's just 1 or 2 years long, and you can deep dive into more theoretical academic kind of research and basically prepare yourself as well for a PhD. You can see a few points down. The fourth point is progressing to a high level of qualification. And usually if you really want to do a PhD in your life, doing a master's degree is required. Now, some people have done PhDs without having done a master's degree. These possibilities are there, but usually what people do is they do a master's degree and then they go into pursuing a PhD program. I hope it's not too loud. I'm in a cafe. That was my only Wi-Fi spot. It got a bit louder, but moving on. second point is basically improving employment prospects. That's of course a question mark there right here as well, because your first job as well after graduation or from a bachelor's can also give you of course better employment prospects, but usually sometimes some jobs require you to have a master's degree. The ones that I applied for before, they asked me specifically for a master's degree or higher qualification, and therefore I couldn't have done these jobs with just my bachelor's degree, and some jobs basically require that. If you are, for example, especially an IR student, that's usually it depends if you want to work in the UN in politics, like in these international organizations, that's usually the case, but it's not always required. It always depends on the job. Yeah, meeting the requirements of your dream job is the same thing. That's basically interlined, I would say. So I've mentioned that. I've also mentioned the PhD. And moving on to the last point, which is also, I would say, relatively interlinked. And I can see that they're actually twice the same point. So I'm just going to skip that. Entering a particular profession is also something that sometimes requires your master's degree, because the master's degree is evidently a little bit more focused, a little bit more specific. And, if you are studying international relations, I'm taking international relations as the best major to explain that, because it's very broad, and you want to probably in your master's degree go a little bit more specific and say, I want to do specifically comparative politics or whatsoever, just as an example. And sometimes jobs require that, and therefore you have basically the chance with a master's degree, again, to focus a little bit more. These are the general kind of advantages of doing a job or doing a master's degree. But we have, of course, some panelists here for you that can share with you why they decided to do a master's or a job after their graduation, because probably for most of the participants here, that's the big question. What am I going to do after my graduation? I mean, I want to do a job. Maybe you want to also do a master's. So it's not a question whether or not you're going to do these two things. It's when and specifically after your graduation or not. And so for that, we have a couple of our speakers here. And of course, I've prepared some questions that I'm going to ask them first to have a bit of a panel discussion with them. And then we move into Q&A. So feel free to already think about your questions. You can raise your hand already if you have one right now. I'll call you up later, or feel free to leave them, of course, into chat. Awesome. Okay, the first question that I have for all of you, of course, is why you chose to do a master's degree after your studies or a job after your studies. And since I have right now Yosan actually on my screen, I'm going to ask you first, if that's okay. What made you choose a job, and this specific job maybe as well, after you graduated from TAU?
Okay, yeah, sure. Basically, in my case, so my decision-making process, my thought process really is that what I did was I tried to have a deep self-analysis of myself. I try to think forward of what I want to do over the next years, and what position would I want to be, and basically just try to list out what my priorities are. Try to have them in a nice organized format, and yeah, one day it just occurred to me that I really put great emphasis on job experience, at least for me. I really found that job experience is a important factor for me. I would like to think myself that if I do ever go for pursue further studies in the future, I would want to have some job experience rather than having none at all. And thus I thought to myself that job experience acts somewhat of like a safety net, at least to a certain extent, if that makes sense. And thus from then on, because my priority is job experience, I decided to start job hunting and do my Shukatsu experience in Japan. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Hey, that's a very good insight. I kind of want to hear as well. Mahavi, why did you decide to basically choose a master's then after 2 years you've mentioned?
Yeah, that's very interesting, though. I wasn't planning to do it at the beginning. Well, when I entered TIU, actually, I wanted to pursue this program like 4+1, 3+2, which saves you a year. But then after graduating, I thought, well, I don't want to waste my time on studies. I thought I want to have like actual experience, because I saw people around working, having part-time jobs, which I also did. But then I see like I compared a lot, like people that did studies and then people that actually worked, like which way is better? Like, you have this question on third and fourth year. You start like talking to people around. And then after I graduated, so I thought, well, I'll start working. I did digital marketing. Question? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm still back. I'm back. Sorry.
I thought it's my internet. So yeah, I gained some experience by working in freelance, especially with the COVID and like, things were a bit different around. And then later my parents helped me because I had this time when I didn't know what to do exactly. At one point I thought, am I doing what I really want to do? Because before that I did a bit of photography and videography as well. So I was like trying to change my path in a way. And yeah, and my parents helped me to make this decision eventually, saying like, oh, try this one. It's a bit different from business economics. Like I entered this program, like hospitality and tourism management. And I thought, well, it sounds great. Why not? And then once I came to Singapore and started my courses, well, that's when I realized that was the best decision I made this year. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful to hear that that was your best decision that you've made this year.
Yeah,
also, for sure, yeah, it's true. Being caught up in at home, basically in your own four walls, right? Also, kind of interesting that you chose to do some freelancing. Maybe that's also something that people consider afterwards. With, I can imagine with DBI students, for example, that they would be interested in doing some coding and some programming. It's not like photography in this case, but still, maybe there's some questions for some people here. If you can relate to anything that the speakers are saying here, feel free to kind of let us know in the chat and share it with us. We want to hear your thought process, your concerns, so that we can basically also give you the right answers here and maybe ask the right questions. That would be perfect. Wonderful. And Edwin, how has it been for you? I mean, you've now you have done now the master's degree and a job. What made you choose a master's degree first?
Right.
And would you do it differently now?
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't change a thing of what I've experienced. So I would still do masters after uni, I think. If I'm ever given the chance to do it all over again. But the point is at the time is that your sort of outlook in life changes as you go along. Because I thought of being an academic, being in academia after TIU, because I was like surrounded by people who wants to do that. And I thought, it's like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds kind of like a cool thing to do. That's why I went straight for my master's. And then but then like sorry, I just recovered from COVID, so if I'm coughing, so please pardon me. But then during masters I thought to myself, is like, being an academic is not like living the life that I wanted, as in like sitting in the desk researching stuff. It's mostly like doing readings, trying to get fundings and whatever, right? So it's not all sunshine and butterflies being in academia. That's why I thought, it's like, I think at this time I would keep the dream alive by reading on the side but doing a job at the same time, which is what I'm doing right now. And so the mindset sort of changed in the middle of my master's, seeing like other people. I mean, I have friends who really did follow through what they wanted, being in academia, but I did not. So I think it's interesting to see like sort of I'm seeing that it's like me choosing a job now instead of pursuing further academia is because uh they always say that it's easier to get back to academia than get back to the job market, to being back in the sort of like labor market, because academia sometimes need professional knowledge inside them. Well, it's vice versa. But yeah, I think I like to think that what I'm doing now is to sort of enrich myself with professional knowledge to get back into academia. That's sort of like my thought process now. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. Get well soon. We definitely pardon you for the coughing. Don't worry about it. Okay, wonderful. So we have a bit of insights of why you basically chose to do a master's or a job afterwards. Now it kind of would be interesting to see or hear from you guys what you would have done maybe differently back then when you were still deciding at TIU whether or not you should pursue a master's or a job, what you would do differently. So maybe I start with Yosan again. When you look back at the last year of your studies, what would you have done, if anything, differently in deciding on going with the job that you wanted to? Is there anything that you would like to share?
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you, Bastian. So basically, I think my major flaw that I had in TIU, if I could redid my university time at TIU, really is to come up with a more concrete and specific goal, I'd say. Basically, I'm going to tell you my story. In TIU, during my time in TIU, I had this goal in mind where I knew I want to work after I graduate. However, I feel now that that is too ambiguous, if that makes sense. I felt that is it's too vague. I felt that if I could rewind back time, I would definitely try to make it more specific. I would narrow it down to a more specific field. Specifically, let's say you can take my goal, for example. I should have make it like I would wanna work in Japan in a gaishike, in a foreign company, let's say in X industry. I think that would have been way better, and through that way, I believe it will create a more clearer steps for me to take from then on. And yeah, because in my case during TIU, I actually started job hunting pretty late myself. I didn't know what I wanted to do until it was my fourth year, and I was so confused. Should I work outside Japan? Should I continue staying in Japan and work there? But yeah, I think if I could rewind back time, I think I should have created a more concrete plan.
Was it your initial goal to work and live in Japan when you arrived at TIU?
That wasn't really my no, that wasn't my goal. Basically, my goal basically I had this mindset where I shouldn't be too fixated upon one goal. I felt that it doesn't open up as many optionalities if we narrow it down to specific. But I do believe that there is pros and cons to it. I believe that you should be specific enough to your goal, but you shouldn't be too fixated upon it. That way, if things don't work out, maybe you can have like a backup plan B, or maybe that way you won't be too focused on the thing. It's good to be, don't get me wrong, it's good to be focused on your goal, but uh, I'm just gonna say that sometimes things don't work out in life. That way you can have like some kind of a, yeah, like a plan B, let's say, for example. And I believe that would really help. In fact, I think most of the time in life, things that comes to you comes very unexpectedly, I'd say, in life. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I can see Edwin nodded. Edwin, do you have something to add? I can see Mavi nodding as well. I think we all kind of agree with this. But since you put the thumb up, Edwin, what's your thought on it? And Mavi as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, me and if Josan had a plan, I didn't have any. Like, really just zero. Come to Japan. It's like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna live my life. And I'm like, that's not right. So I was like having a bit of a sort of like a meltdown during like second, third year university, because I thought to myself, in the fourth year of university, you can't do anything to change it. There's just like too little time. So second year of university, I thought of working, but then third year of university, the plan sort of changed to wanting to pursue academia. And technically, I was able to do both, but at the same time, I think I think what Josan really said was very important. It's good to keep yourself open but not fixated on something. And I think and I think everyone who joined this webinar is doing the right thing. Maybe they're wondering whether they should do a master or go straight to the working world, and maybe they don't know what to expect in both worlds. That's why you're joining this webinar. That's good. I didn't join any. There wasn't any sort of like these kind of things when I was in second, third year university. That's why I was struggling. So what would I recommend to make this decision-making process easier and more insightful is join more of this, talk to more people. Sometimes it requires a single hello for people to open up to you and share their stories, because I think most of the time people do want to share their stories. How about you, Mavi?
I just wanted to get back to your words, Edwin. So when you said like when you grow up, like your way of realizing things, like seeing things, is different because you get mature, like you become mature. And you see the reality, not like you were in a first grade, like freshman, you just came to Japan, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have fun here, eat sushi all day long. So yeah, so the thing is, once you get to this like third or fourth year, you become senior, and then you have to make this decision, but then you're unsure. It's not just some people having this feeling, it's all of us, like Edwin, Josan, like Bastian, I'm sure you had some like uncertainties as well, right? So and the most important thing here is, as Edwin said, talk to more people just to get their experience, not to make a decision like based on what others did. And don't compare yourself to others. That's the worst you can do, because by this age, I can say like many people that I talk to, they would compare themselves. If they didn't pursue master's degree, they would say like, oh, I didn't do it, so it's such a shame. Or like they didn't get a job, and then like started thinking of a family or whatever. They also say like, oh, I should have pursued my master's degree. So there are always things that you won't be able to do, just because you have to choose it and then be happy with your decision and without comparing it. So it's really great that you guys are joining this webinar, because yeah, Edwin is right, we didn't have that back then. but we are happy to share with you, so you can make a better decision. Not a better decision, but like we can at least help you telling our own experience, sharing our own thoughts on this. And it's your choice either to like do masters or get a job. In any case, you are doing right. So never think that, oh, I should like have done something different. So like life, it is as it is.
That's so true. Yes. Thanks so much for sharing, guys. I think that's really the message that all of you are trying to kind of bring across, right? There's no right or wrong answer in this case. If you do a job, you'll get something out of it. You mature, as Mavi said, you'll gain experience. And if you do a master's, it's the same thing. And so the question of what comes first is a tricky one, because both of these two things will bring you somewhere else, and hopefully and most likely to the right place where you're supposed to be. So that's a good insight. I want to give the attendees now the chance to actually also ask some questions before I would go on here and ask some questions. So that is always the moment of silence, usually, from what I experience. But attendees, come on in, participants, all the students here that we have. Feel free to raise your hand or ask your question in the chat if you want to do that. We don't have a moment of silence. Great. Afia, go ahead.
Hi guys, thank you so much for this arranging this talk, and yes, I'm happy to save you from that moment of silence. So my question is for Edwin, actually. So I'm thinking of kind of graduating early, and I'm not really sure if I want to go ahead with it, if it's the best choice for me. Currently, I just finished my 5th semester, so if I want to graduate early, I can do it within my 7th semester. So my initial plan was to just do a master's immediately afterwards, but I'm not really sure if that is the right decision in those terms. So I'm just curious to know if any of you graduated early, how was that experience? How did that affect you? And especially for Edwin, if you graduated early, how did that play into your master's?
Right. Bastian, did you graduate early? Just curious.
Indeed, I did.
You did, right? Maybe you should be the one telling the story, because I did not graduate early. I wanted to, but I couldn't.
I'm happy to share some insights first. Edwin, go ahead.
All right. So for me, I wanted to do the same with you. So graduates at my 7th semester, but my grades weren't good enough. Of course, that's always the case, right? But then I'm glad that I did not, because the interesting classes started popping up after that. So by that virtue, doing my master's is much. I feel like if I graduate early, I wouldn't have the insights that I managed to snatch in my last 2 semesters in TIU. So that's good on its own. But if time is pressing or financial issues are pressing, then please, by all means, go do graduate early. Probably apply for a scholarship and go for your master's. But that's pretty much what I can say. For Bastian, I think this is time for you to shine, bro.
Totally. Yosan and Mavi, how you guys did you guys graduate early as well, or did you finish at 4 years? What was it for you?
No, I graduated like other people did.
Okay.
Again, it's same situation as Edwin's. I didn't get like that GPA to graduate early, but I'm glad actually, because you have time. Just as a I'm just sharing my experience, like how it went, that I didn't graduate early. So you have more time to spend with your friends. Trust me, once you start working or once you get an internship, it's so much different. It's not like it's school. You don't have extra time. You don't have extra time to think even, So if you want to enjoy this this time, I would suggest to graduate later. But as Edwin mentioned, like if there are any financial urgent situation, and then it's like extra semester means like extra money to spend on it. So then why not? Either ways is fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yosan, you also wanted to say something.
Yeah, for me, for my case, I actually did an early graduation by 3.5. Yeah, I did. I graduated in March. I took a 3.5 years program at TIU, and basically my recommendation is, I just agree with Mavi. Like, really just enjoy your time in university as much as you can, because after you graduate, and especially if you choose to decide to go to work in a company. It's really different. The difference is like day and night. And so what I can recommend you from my experience is that if you don't feel like you're in a rush, if you feel like you want to take your time, you want to figure things out, I'd highly recommend for you to just give it time, just give it some more thought. You don't really have to rush it. And take an early graduation if you don't feel like you don't want to.
Yeah, I think the three speakers, Afia, gave you already a really good insight. I can only repeat what they say. It depends on your financial situation, but most importantly, and I know how hard it is because, you know, when I look back, I didn't understand it, because usually you understand these things only when you look back. Enjoy the time during your bachelor's. It's really important. I know you need to study, you need to do your papers and whatsoever, and you want to have good grades, but things will become busier. It will become harder to meet with friends. It will be harder to, you know, meet people in general. And that sounds terrible, I know, but it's also fun. There's some other fun parts with it for sure. Still, the bachelor's degree is such a wonderful time. I think all of you can now be in Japan, you know, be around international students, make friends for a lifetime. It's great. And I don't think graduating after 4 years or 3 years, nothing gives you an advantage when you search for a job. I think if your grades are not that great, let's say, do it 4 years. If you have, you know, to kind of pick up your GPA a little bit, even though that's not really important in the end either. Then if you want to do more internships, go and stay another year as well. The fourth year gives you another chance to become an intern somewhere else. It will allow you to also do some volunteering a little bit more if you want to. Basically, of course, if you don't have the money, then try to graduate early. And yeah, that's basically all that I can add to that, or share with you as well in that case, because the fourth year can give you some advantages for sure when it comes to doing internships, voluntary work, improving your grades or whatsoever. And the student perks, of course, because everything is right now student price, right? The discounts, we all miss them kind of still, I would say. I definitely miss paying literally almost nothing for Microsoft Office or something like that. Now I need to pay the adult prices. It's not fun. Afia, did that answer your question, or do you have any follow-up question? And then we definitely come to Ludwig. Don't worry.
No, thank you so much. That did provide me with a lot of useful insights. I do have one follow-up question in terms of the timeline for a master's. So if I want to graduate early, I would be done within spring of next year, like 2023. So that means like new semesters usually start around September for masters. So that gives me like a month in between, and I jump to a master's immediately. I was considering doing that. Like money is not the main issue here. It's just that I think I'm mostly done with my credits. I'm like, what am I gonna do in my 8th semester other than job hunting? Not even job hunting. I just felt like it was a waste of time, honestly, because I don't want to settle in Japan. So at the end of the day, do you think that's too tight of a schedule?
Can I just tell what I think in this case? Because if you're not planning to be based in Japan, right, like to stay there, then you definitely shouldn't waste your time, because time here is like really something that you should be thinking of. And then maybe during this like semester, like extra semester, right, you can gain another experience. Maybe if you are thinking of traveling somewhere else, just take an advantage of it, like graduate early and then do something that you really like. If you already thought of like something that you like, the industry where you see yourself at, take this time for maybe either in Japan or overseas, doing like practical stuff. So to better understand what you really want to do. Like, for example, in my case, it was on my 4th year. I went to lots of meetings in Tokyo, just like to understand myself, like what am I gonna be in this business industry, or if I want to start my business in the future, well, that means I should make connections, right? So I would go to Tokyo every week, and then just like to meet up people, you know, and then do some kind of workshops. And yeah, it's great that you have this extra time though.
For sure, yeah. I really use the time that you have, and if you feel like you don't want to stay longer and you can graduate early, well, then go ahead and do it. And if it's really about, you know, going directly to a master's degree after a month, yeah, I get that. It can be a bit overwhelming, jumping directly into the next degree, but then also you'll have it done and save some time if that's really the main concern. I'm not sure if Yosan or Edwin want to add something on that.
I think I think I'm in the same opinion with Mavi. If you do have the free time, please do use it for whatever purposes, whether to study, sort of like even things like learning your own, learning things about your own major again is always a good thing, because it allows you to see which part, if you want to go masters, it kind of like leads you to which part you want to go further, or as Mavi said, you know, meeting people, expanding your opportunities. I think those two are very good use of your time.
Yeah, I think free time usually has some kind of a negative connotation to some people, because they think like, oh, like I'm just wasting time. But I think it's definitely depends on how you use your free time, whether you're using it effectively, if you're using it wisely. If you're using your free time to do volunteer work, to do sign up for, I don't know, to expand your connections, meet up to join several events, meet up new people, I think that's a great way to use your free time. So free time doesn't always necessarily mean bad. It just depends on how you use your free time effectively. Do you get what I mean?
Sounds good. Yeah, using free time effectively. Free time is nice. Afia, I hope we could answer your questions. Moving on to Ludwig, if that's okay, so that he can also ask his question. Ludwig, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what's the GPA requirement for early graduation?
That's a good question. I forgot, honestly. Do you guys remember?
3.7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it?
And is it by two semesters earlier you can go, or?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
usually you can graduate from your bachelor's degree after 3 years usually. If that's a possibility. 3.7 it was back then. Maybe it has changed. We don't know exactly, but 3.7.
Oh, guys, you're lucky to have it. Was 2.7 back then.
Really?
Was it?
I don't think it was 3.
Was it? Because I remember when some of our, I think it was 3.7, no?
Yeah, you can rewrite it. Definitely needed to be 3 point something. I don't know if it was 3.67. I forgot, honestly, but you definitely had to have a certain GPA in order to graduate early. But Ludwig, just to be clarified, I mean, we have graduated now 1 or 2 years. You know, no guarantee here. The easiest way to really check and be sure about it is to ask the IEO, I guess, about that. But for us, it was something around that GPA for sure. Is that all the questions you had, or was there anything else?
Yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Okay. Good luck, all of you, if you want to graduate early. I also got a direct message actually from Adi. Adi, do you want to share that question with all of us, or do you prefer me just sharing it? Okay, I assume I'm going to share it with you. So he asked, how useful is it to learn Japanese if my goal is to do a master's degree elsewhere? I think that's a good question. I think, I guess elsewhere means outside of Japan. Well, if it's okay, I'll ask Mavi first. What do you think?
Well, it's been so long, honestly, since I remember like lots of things about Japanese. Like, I mean, I mean, I still can speak, but writing wise and yeah, this is one of the languages that you can easily not forget completely, but like forget lots of things, like as it has the symbols and like Chinese language, for example. So if you don't want to waste your time on Japanese, then just do basic learning. I mean, you might be based somewhere else, then learn their language. Why would you waste your time on learning Japanese, like, professionally? So you can still do some like grammar, like basic Japanese, and use it. It's gonna be also it's gonna be looking great on your resume. Don't forget that, because for me, when I did job on freelance even, people were they were like, oh wow, you speak Japanese, that's great, say something. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they they thought that my level is like N1 probably, but to them, speaking Japanese language is like, wow, that's great. Or you speak Chinese, wow, that's even better, like these symbols. Yeah. Something like that. Or very like genki. Sushi, like these like very basic things, they would accept it as like you're a pro in this language. So yeah, don't waste your time. Learn the language that you are, the language of the country where you're planning to go to, and at the same time, just take Japanese as a like extra skill that is gonna look great on your resume in the future. Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think or say?
Me?
Yes.
I actually, well, wouldn't say I solely got my job because I can speak Japanese and write in Japanese, but I did sort of. My boss sort of said that, like, yeah, because you're Indonesian, you speak Bahasa and you speak Japanese, that's why we hire you. So it has nothing to do with my qualifications whatsoever. But but the good thing is, it's always, I agree with Mavi in a sense that it always looks good in your CV if you can master several languages, because I think there's like a few things associated with language acquisition with like your soft skill as a person. Means like means if you understand a language good enough, you sort of like, you're good with working with people with different backgrounds, because different language entails different backgrounds, which entails different usage of it, right? So I think it's always good to study just and it's and I keep say my opinion about Japanese is that, like, if you're already in Japan, then why not learn the language, right? Because you'll be hearing it every day, using it, well, regardless of what your social circle is, you'll bound to use it one day. So when you're in Rome, act like the Roman does. When you're in Japan, behave like the Japanese does by speaking Japanese. So I think that's sort of like, even if you don't like the culture or whatsoever, knowing the language will always put you in a good pedestal at one point in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yosan, actually, I assume you can also say a few things about that, because you're working in Japanese, from what I understood, and you also now decided to study Chinese, from what I see. Is it traditional or is it simplified Chinese?
It's a traditional one.
Oh,
Taiwan
okay. So what made you decide basically picking that up, and what would you say about the question, even though this one is more about, finding a master's degree, but you probably have some thoughts?
Yeah. So I would say, for Adi's question, right? Is it? For Adi's question, I would say that since you're aiming for a master's degree outside Japan, the Japanese language might not be your top priority, I'd say. But I definitely do say that learning the language will definitely be helpful for you in the future. it's not a requirement maybe for you right now, but it will definitely be advantageous to you and it's gonna be a plus for you in your CV as well, or whenever you make connections, you can talk with Japanese people as well, and you can help create a conversation topic as well if you know Japanese. I don't think you should neglect the language Japanese completely, but I think it's good for you. I think it would be really helpful for you to try to learn Japanese as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I think these are all good insights. Guys, we have a few more minutes left, so if you have some questions still, this is the last chance. But yeah, also to add to that, honestly, and this is what comes through what the speaker said. It doesn't matter if you speak the language fluently, especially if you want to apply for a master's degree. Probably if the master's degree doesn't require you to speak Japanese, the language is not really useful for that application. However, for the rest of your life, it will definitely be, because recruiters, they look at who you are as a person. And if they can see that you speak Japanese to a certain extent, that you're curious about learning languages, trying out different things with internship or volunteer opportunities or whatsoever, that's what they look at. They're curious about these things. And in that case, Japanese can definitely help you out. They will look at it and be like, oh, wow, this person speaks 2-3 languages, 4 languages, whatever, maybe not fluently, but I think what a recruiter can also see from there, that you as a person, you have some certain, I know that sounds stupid, but some certain intelligence. I mean, you're picking up a language that is really, really hard, and as Edwin said, it can also give you sometimes perks in your job, in the job market, because if the company has somehow a location in Japan and they want to expand the business there, or your work is somehow related to Japanese co-workers or whatsoever, it will help you for sure. I mean, at least you have a bit more of the language understanding, and also the cultural understanding, maybe even more. So definitely always an advantage to have languages on your CV. Awesome. Amantur, I hope I pronounced that correctly. You had a question. Feel free.
Yeah, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. And basically, I wanted to ask about what did you find useful when applying to master's degree? What did you find was important that we have to do now while we're in university? So yeah, thank you. That's
sure. Thanks, Samantha. Mario or Edwin, who wants to go first? Ozan, I'm not sure. Actually, is your plan also to do a master's degree sometime in the future? I wanted to ask you earlier, but
yeah, basically, honestly, in the near future, no, I'm not thinking of doing a master's degree in the near future, but maybe in the long term, possibly could be. I'm gonna look at my condition later on.
Okay, so these insights might be actually helpful for you too. Just kidding. Mavi, if you want to start, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a very tricky question, because the thing is, you choose master's degree at some point just because to realize, oh, I want to broaden up my knowledge. It's not like you choose it because it looks good on your CV. It's not just that. I mean, for some people, yeah. But for me, it was I was in business economics major, and it's also, as international relations, it's broad. So later on, you need to choose either you are in economics, you do financial, so you work with numbers, or you are in business, you do more of a broad, you talk to people, you develop someone's business, or you start your own business. So and in my case, well, to start my own business, I need budget anyway. I thought, well, I'm gonna work with a company, but which company, in which industry? And then I narrowed it to tourism and hospitality. But tourism and hospitality is also very broad. So I thought food industry. And that's how I actually chose my internship, applying for different places. And then eventually I realized, well, what can I do? What are my, which skills can I use? What I'm good at? So you started like learning some stuff about yourself as well during master's degree. You take different courses, you talk to your professors, and then you realize like, oh yeah, I should go here. So yeah, if you are thinking of going for master's degree, sorry, what's the name? A mentor, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
So a mentor, if you're thinking of doing master's degree, you should understand if you really want to do it, if it helps you in the future, if you're not pressured by others, like, oh, if you don't do like master's degree, then you're like losing something, because it's also time consuming. It's also financially, like you have to like you have to pay for it, like you have to spend time on studies. So yeah.
So time consuming for sure. Edwin, go ahead.
I think what you can do in TIU is definitely to have a good communication and relationship with your professor, because my grades weren't that great. I graduated TIU with 3.39, which is like not good compared to other people who went on to do masters afterwards. And I think I like to think that, I mean, I like to think that I got in masters because of my own individual brilliance, but not, I don't think so. I think it's because the sort of like, you need to sort of like, I don't like to say it this word, but it's almost like you need to stalk your professor, need to know who their connections are, who are they close with. And I managed to get like the perfect set of recommendation, because both of my professor were both graduates and used to teach in Singapore, and they're quite well known in their subject in this country, that when I bring the letters from those two, they were like, this person knows what he's doing. So yes, to a certain extent, you need to sort of like get to know your professor well, talk to them. Like, I think there was like a time in TIU, every time after class, I just visit a professor in their room and then just like have a chat. It doesn't have to be academic, it doesn't have to be about your future. You can just ask like, how's life, prof? I think they'll be happy to have a person to talk to when it comes to those things. So yeah, definitely building relationships with your professor will definitely help.
Thanks so much, guys. I think all of the people who listened could hear that building connections, talking to people definitely makes a lot of sense. I know that, or we all know probably, that professors always seem like a little bit distant and they seem busy, and of course they are, and they might sometimes also look a bit or seem a bit scary or whatsoever to approach them. But they are really helpful in the end. If you connect with your professors, they can help you in your career, they can help you making your decision, let it be for a job or for a master's degree, beyond TIU as well. I assume as well that some of us have been in touch with TIU professors, let it be for the master's degree, for letters of recommendation, for example. They're really helpful professors. And so
go to the English Plaza, sorry.
Go to the English Plaza, yeah, or Japanese Plaza as well. I mean, connect to people, talk to people. I mean, you have people who are also working around you who have done master's degrees. They can give you a bit also some more insights, and that's why we're doing this webinar as well, to bring it to you. But of course, you have some people around you too. Now, there's one last question that I received directly. I hope the speakers are still fine. Do you have a few more minutes? I see some nodding. Okay, then we take that as the last question, if that's okay. The question is two parts. The first one is a clarification one. If you've done an internship in Japan, has anyone of you done an internship in Japan?
I did.
Is Yamato considered as?
Yamato? Isn't that the delivery company?
We had a class, if you remember, it was an internship.
It's similar to
Okay,
an
so
internship. Yeah.
we take that. And then Supriya wants to know how that experience was for you. So Yosan, feel free to start. And maybe you could give also bits of insights of how it is, you know, in your current job since you're working in Japan. Link it to it. Let's see.
Yeah, funny how you should mention it, Bastian, because in fact, I I believe my internship really helped me reach my previous job, at least the one in Japan, because I did an internship at Omori Machinery. It was through TIU's career office. One day I went there wanting to do an internship. I asked what companies are available for me to internet, and there was one list, Omori Machinery, and in fact, their job list is actually to do. They don't really give a job title for the internship in TIU, but however, if you do decide to join Omori Machinery, at least during my time, it was more of a international trade advisor internship. They will teach you how to handle those bills of lading documents, how to handle the invoice list. They would really teach you all from scratch from that internship. So I did find my internship very helpful in Japan because it did land me my previous job. Yeah, and so but I do understand that some internships in Japan are usually shorter than usual. They are usually around in TIU. They are usually like around a week or a month, and some are even one day long internship. Uh, they do exist in Japan. Yeah. So my suggestion is for you. Yeah, if you have the chance, if you have the opportunity, just try to get as many as internships as you can, gain those experience. That way, you will be able to get exposed to more industries. You'll have more experience. You'll know what this job in this industry entails, what it's like, and also you'll get more connections. You'll meet more people. You'll also be able to practice your Japanese as well. Thus, I think it's a very good, efficient way of using your time as well. Thus, I think I highly recommend internship.
Well said.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think maybe, yeah.
Mavi, go ahead.
No, it wasn't an internship though. It was just a project-based internship. They called it an internship at the Yamato company. But all we did is, Justin, weren't you there in that class?
Yeah. I actually took
I
took that class as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
The career experience practicum. I'd say it is similar to internship as well. It is more similar to management consulting internship, if I could say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a project base, and we found some issues at Yamato company, and then we had to work on these issues. At the end, you do like a presentation and then bring the solutions to those issues. Overall, it was okay. I would say it wasn't bad experience, but it wasn't a great experience either. As it like they make you do like really simple things. They don't give you much information because they think it's like confidential. Well, but to me, it's not clear because if you make us work on the issues, then we need more information, right? So they don't give you much information. And then all their answers were like not clear. If you ask something, they're like this till this part you can know. So yeah, but it's if you have a chance to get an internship, maybe it's nice to try it. Because you know, experience of like working experience in Japan is different. Like I hear it a lot, even from my friends that are working now. And then you will realize, like, would you want to stay there? If not, then
yeah, I have some things to add as well from maybe about that. career experience practicum class. Yeah, it's exactly like Mavi said. There are some when you join the class, you aren't able to get all the information that you need. But I do, however, think that it is I think it is helpful for you. I think it's a very cool class as well. You can get a chance to visit the headquarters of the company that you're doing the class. In fact, I heard I think one semester after we did the career experience practicum with Yamato Kuroneko, they had a session with in fact with Toyota company. It was I think it was a really cool experience as well. And then you also able to see aside from the headquarters, yeah, I think you'd be able to learn how to basically it's just like soft skills. I'd say you'd be able to work in a small group. You'd learn how to interact more with the staffs there. You'd learn. I think it's a really cool opportunity. If you have the opportunity, I think you should really take it as well.
Exactly. It's an opportunity, and thinking about it, even though in Japan the internships are kind of weird, they still give you some insights. And even though it's not a real internship, maybe if it's just a day or 3 days or a week long, it's an experience. And you can also go and check out some startups. So sometimes some international organizations who are located in Japan, they usually offer internships that are a bit longer. Sometimes embassies as well. If you're an IR, for example, just share that with you. I've done an internship at the Embassy of Afghanistan, which is kind of strange, but there are some embassies that don't require you to be from either nation. And they give you still a wonderful experience and give you some internship experience as well. That is not just a week long, but maybe 2-3 months long, or even longer if you want to. So check them out. There are also some startups, I believe, if I haven't mentioned that. Wonderful. Guys, thanks so much. I think we have now gone over time a little bit, but Mavi, Yosan, Edwin, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insights. It's really, really appreciated. If some of the attendees still have some questions, feel free to shoot us an email at info@tiueaa.com. tiueaa.com. You can always reach us there. We will be happy to kind of forward that to the speakers. I'm sure you can find them on LinkedIn as well, and you can happily connect with them there and maybe ask some direct questions there. Other than that, I wish all the attendees a wonderful Sunday evening in Japan, a wonderful start into the new week. And for the speakers, again, thank you so much for your time, your insights, and all the best for your future endeavors, as they always nicely say.
Thank you, Bastian. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Glenn, take care. Have a good day.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.